Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Just ahead tonight, how you can help a student get off to a great start in the new school year. That's ahead. We begin tonight with advice for helping newborns get off to a great start in life. Joining us for this week's Your Health segment are Jennifer Fahey, assistant professor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and certified nurse midwife at the University of Maryland Medical Center, and Cheryl Holden, senior nurse, clinical nurse and lactation consultant, University of Maryland Medical Center. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So when it comes to breastfeeding rates around the world, if you look at the developed countries, United States lags, but it's getting better. Is that what you're seeing in your practice?
Yes, we're working very hard to initiate higher breastfeeding numbers with the moms. And that's starting by getting babies skin to skin as soon as they're delivered. So we have 10 steps that we're following because we're working for baby friendly. But every hospital in Maryland is all pursuing the same thing, more exclusive breastfeeding babies.
What do you see in terms of the receptiveness of new parents to that?
I think it's definitely improving as word gets out about initiatives such as this, as we learn more and more about the health benefits of breastfeeding. I keep learning new things, and I've been doing this for quite a while, and it's amazing. Breast milk, if it were a medicine, we'd be required to give it to all newborns. So we just need to get the message out that this is something that moms can give to their babies.
And it's more than food.
Oh yes, much more than food.
Tell me more.
It's an active substance. The reason I call it a medicine is because it gives antibodies that help that particular baby at that particular age in its life. It's perfectly made to give it what it needs nutritionally, what it needs to fight infections, what it needs to learn about its culture even. We get tastes from the breast milk that help us learn to be in our community. It's really an amazing substance.
For the mom, for the new moms that you work with, is it more work to breastfeed or get formula?
Great question.
And how do they perceive it?
They don't have to get up in the middle of the night to warm up a bottle if they're breastfeeding. They don't have to prepare bottles of formula. And it's definitely good for the environment, not throwing formula cans away.
I think
that kind of thing.
There's this idea that sometimes parents have that they're going to have to work more if they breastfeed because it's something that the mom's doing. But as it turns out, on average, a new study found that breastfeeding moms sleep 45 minutes longer than moms who are formula feeding.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, so sleep is extremely important. I think the really difficult time for moms comes when they're trying to return to the workforce or reintegrate into the other aspects of society. And that's where it's really important for the rest of the community to come in and help them, because it can be very difficult to return to work and pump and do all the work of continuing to provide this wonderful food source to their babies when we're back as working moms, for example. I experienced that myself, the challenges. And so I think that's where the challenge of the work comes in and where everyone can help new moms.
In terms of right off the bat, within the first day or two, is there some degree of difficulty? I mean, maybe it works naturally, immediately. The baby knows what it's doing for the most part, but the mom may need a little help.
It's a learned behavior, right? Like any other learned behavior.
It is for both of them. And I think by getting babies on mother's chest as soon as possible after delivery and then allowing them to find their food source and to eat with the support of all the staff, it's working out very well.
How soon after delivery do you try to do that?
Right away if we can, within minutes of being born. We're drying the baby off and putting the baby on mom's chest. We call it skin to skin.
And you weren't doing skin to skin 15, 20 years ago.
We were not. We were not.
Baby got wrapped up, swaddled.
That's right. And you could see their little face, and that's it.
How did the change come about?
With a lot of education. Actually, about 15 years ago, there was a nurse that started what she called kangaroo care. And I think it's kind of run along since then. So we know that the baby on mom's chest, the baby feels secure. The baby's heart rate will drop if the heart rate is too fast. If they're cold, the mother's going to warm them up. It's perfect between the two of them.
So from a hospital standpoint, I mean, we're just talking about take the baby, dry the baby off, and plop.
From the moment they're born.
Mother's got to love it, you would think. Might be in some discomfort otherwise, but.
Well, they knew about it ahead of time. Part of this whole improvement is at every prenatal visit, the nurse midwives, the OB doctors are talking about all the benefits of breastfeeding and what to expect. So it's not a shock, and a lot of our moms take classes too, and I think they really enjoy it.
And the baby immediately goes looking for something to eat.
It's not always immediately, but one of the things when you wrap them and put them away is we miss those first cues that baby gives to mom. And mom also misses those things she needs to hear and feel her baby, helps her start not only be safer right after delivery, less chance of bleeding, but it also starts letting her body know that her baby's here. And so we were missing a lot of those cues from baby. We were missing that opportunity for mom to hold and feel baby and to get her hormones in her brain that will tell her to breastfeed. And so, not all babies can do this, but a majority of them can, and we can put them right on, and then we just watch them and see when they're showing us signs that they're ready for that first feeding.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about breastfeeding, the movement towards more breastfeeding as opposed to bottle feeding, you can give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You can also email your questions. The email address is livequestions@mpt.org. So typically, how long do you want somebody to continue breastfeeding the baby? Is there a certain number of months? When are you supposed to wean these days?
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that every baby receive breast milk for a year. But World Health, which is a bigger body, would like every baby to receive breast milk for 2 years. It's a living fluid. And we forgot before, we call it the first vaccination. The first time the babies feed, it's their first vaccination. They get all the immunities from mom in that first feeding.
One of you mentioned that modern society isn't totally in sync with this. If you're going back into the workforce, any improvements in the systems for pumping, storing, and all that?
We saw some big improvement come with the Affordable Care Act, put a lot of measures in place to help support breast pumps for moms so that when moms were going to be going back to work, some lactation support, lactation consultation, and a lot of those have stayed in place, and that has helped a lot. There's also, Maryland has regulations, so do a lot of states about supporting women, giving them breaks to breastfeed. And so it doesn't apply to all employees, and some women that are working certain jobs might not benefit from those, but there's definitely a lot more now than there used to be to support women.
As a society, how do we feel about it? Does society feel about this the way that you would like?
I think there's a lot of discomfort with the act of breastfeeding, and I think it's probably from lack of knowledge, and we have grown up in a society that is a bottle feeding society. So we haven't
try to make
seen
everything prepackaged, branded.
Yeah, definitely. So people know that that's what the norm is for them, and they are uncomfortable around mothers that are breastfeeding sometimes.
Right, and we've seen that there was some picture going around on Instagram today of a celebrity who was breastfeeding. So there was the issue with the partially exposed breast, which makes some people uncomfortable, but she was also holding a glass of wine, which is something I wanted to ask you about. If you're a breastfeeding mother, do you have to be more careful about what you eat and drink and smoke, perhaps, than otherwise?
Definitely. If you read that article, they quoted American Academy of Pediatrics, and they said that they would like you to not drink that glass of wine 1 to 2 hours before feeding the baby. So
feed the baby, then have the glass of wine.
Exactly.
And I like to say to women that there's a lot of things they can have very full diets. You know, 1 glass of wine is different than some other things that we could put in. So it's all about making sure that you're in communication with lactation experts or with your pediatricians to know what's safe. Women don't have to have perfect diets. They don't have to be in perfect shape. Yes, we need to keep drugs, and certain substances have to be out of the milk because those could be dangerous, including ones that sometimes we prescribe. We have to be careful to make sure we know a mom's lactation status. But I like to remind women that this doesn't have to change their lives as much as they might think to be able to successfully and safely breastfeed their babies.
The other point worth making in support of breastfeeding is on the other end of the digestive system, that breast milk digests almost perfectly. I mean, it's designed, the body, both systems are designed for that. And when you do change to formula or certainly solid food, put this simply, the diapers get a lot smellier.
Yes, they do.
And there's a lot of things talking about that end, about our gut flora that we've learned. And so that's one of the things. We've known breast milk is the best food, but we're still learning about why. And one of these things that has emerged is from breast milk, a baby gets about 1/3 of its gut flora. And we're understanding that now has impact on risk of getting diabetes, obesity, even hypertension. And so what we call the microbiome of the gut is seeded in great part by breast milk in a way that it's not with formula. So that end of the gut is also stinky diapers. And
let's grab a phone call. Prince William County, this is Holly. Holly, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Hi, I have a question for the ladies. I'm interested when a child or newborn is not taking breast milk properly, like they get very bloated, very gassy, very stinky, smelly diapers, possibly slight hives. Does this mean that the child is allergic to breast milk or lactose? Is this an early sign or signal of a lactose intolerance in the child? And should I be maybe moving to like a soy alternative?
Holly, thanks for the phone call. How often do you see that?
Pretty. I can't think, maybe 5-10% of moms may experience something like this. And a good recommendation is to go back to your pediatrician and possibly even see a peds GI doctor, because it may not be lactose, it might be dairy products, but the pediatric doctors will help you figure out what it is. But definitely not going to a soy formula. That's just as allergic as dairy.
What are the top issues that a lactation consultant sees? I mean, you must see the same. It must be a lot of new mothers, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah.
First-time mothers.
First-time mothers, inability to latch, sore nipples, or babies are biting when they get a little bit older. And women fear that they're not producing enough milk to feed their baby.
Because it's perfectly obvious when the bottle's empty.
Exactly. So we developed a really beautiful way of showing how small the baby's stomach is on day 1, day 3, and day 7. And we show those to the moms to reinforce that they do have enough milk.
Jennifer, what happens when a child needs to go to the Nicu? I mean, or maybe it's a premature birth, or those things impediments to breastfeeding?
Well, They can be impediments to direct breastfeeding if a baby's needing to be helped to breathe and and being separated. But it's actually these babies who are premature and who are going to the Nicu, who are having cardiac. We were talking about cardiac surgeries earlier for complex heart diseases. Those are the ones that need this the most. And doctor teams all over the world and all over the country are realizing how important breast milk is to the well-being of these babies. So it's now becoming one of our staunchest advocates are some of these pediatricians and specialists, because they need that breast milk to help make those babies better. And the best place to get that is from the moms themselves. There's banks and other things, but the ideal source is the mom, and as quickly as possible getting them together as well, and hopefully eventually breastfeeding directly. But the milk is essential for these babies.
Mm-hmm. I guess there's a feeling in society that we can improve upon anything. We have the science, we have the technology to do it, and maybe that was part of the big movement away from breastfeeding, but now maybe we know more. And there's the move towards natural foods of all kinds. Does that help?
I believe so, but it's just the perfect food for human babies. There's no argument at all. It's just the right food.
I laugh because every time I read a new article about breast milk, I realize it is breast milk that makes me realize that how much we think we know, but how really little we know about how our systems work, all our systems work in sync with each other. And so I think that's part of the big push, is as we're realizing more about the immune system, about microbes, about all these things that we're learning about breast milk, that's helping reintroduce it, I guess, getting back to basics.
Jennifer Fahey and Cheryl Holden, both University of Maryland Medical, thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it, and when we come back, new efforts to make sure that every student has what they need to succeed in school.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
We are the curious.
Wow!
The adventurous.
Oh, girl!
Those venturing out for the first time.
And those who've never lost our sense of wonder.
Whoa. You seen this?
We are the hungry.
The strong.
I must be the greatest.
The joyful.
A happy little cloud.
We believe there is always more we can uncover.
More we can explore.
We believe in the capacity for goodness.
And the potential for greatness.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
PBS. PBS.
PBS.
My name is Phyllis, and my favorite book that I want to talk about today is Charlotte's Web. I live on a dairy farm and have been a dairy farmer for many years. So the idea of Charlotte and her little pig on the farm speaks to me in many, many ways. So it's about a story about relationships, and relationships about different people and different entities. So Fern and Charlotte and Wilbur form a bond that you would not think would be possible between a pig and a little girl and a spider. But it's about Fern growing up and learning to let go of things and leaving things behind. So I would recommend Charlotte's Web to anybody of any age, but particularly children starting out and learning to read.
Vote now at mpt.org/Great American Read.
Joining us now in the studio, Deborah Phelps, Executive Director of the Education Foundation of the Baltimore County Public Schools. Thank you for being here.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, the school bell rings 4 weeks from tomorrow. What do kids need to be ready for day one, and how are you trying to help?
Well, as Executive Director of the Education Foundation for Baltimore County Public Schools, we are doing the same thing people are doing across the country and the state, getting our kids ready with supplies, getting supplies in our classrooms for our teachers, wanting to make an impact on the performance that they have, and no child should go to school without supplies in their hand.
And we're not talking about major stuff. It's a backpack, it's
Pencils,
Some
pens, composition books, spiral notebooks, binders, do-tang folders, markers, crayons, colored pencils, things that you can buy all over the place at great prices right now.
That's true. They were rolling it out a month ago in stores I've been to, but not everybody has the money to correctly equip their kids for school, and you try to fill that gap.
We do. So you figure it costs between $50 and $100 to fill a backpack of school supplies for kids, depending on if they're in elementary, middle, or high school. But you know, it's walking in the door with those supplies, but then also being able to have the supplies a month after, or 2 months after, or a week when pencils get lost or pens get misplaced. So we want to make sure our teachers are ready to be able to say, I have a pencil for you. I can give you a backpack. I can give you a cinch bag. And we're going to continue with their academic performance, making them strong students.
You've been running a program where people can drop some supplies in drop boxes at various locations. That's nearing an end, but what are some of the places?
A large amount of places. Go to our website, educationfoundationbcps.org, to find out the whole list. But any Baltimore County Public Library, BB&T, iFly, First Financial Credit Union, law firms, Office Depot, Office Max. We have bins throughout this entire Baltimore area to be able to make it convenient for people to be able to drop off their school supplies for our kids.
And there's a Stuff a Bus event?
Oh, we're stuffing a bus. The Towson Farmers Market. We did one in Pikesville. Thank you, Pikesville Chamber of Commerce, for having us. We're doing one in Towson very soon. In fact, this week, we're doing Stuff a Truck at Cockeysville Library on August the 18th. So we have a lot going on to be able to give people the opportunity to say, I'm going to make an impact on the next generation. I'm going to buy some school supplies.
This happens on a county-by-county basis, I guess. There's no statewide organization or statewide TV station, so I ask people in other counties can check with their local school system.
Absolutely. I think every district does something in some capacity, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce who rallies around our schools, whether it be businesses that rally around our schools. But if you go and just Google different school districts, you'll find that I would say 99.9% of the districts across the state of Maryland are coming together for our kids.
Was there ever a time that the schools provided all this? Maybe not the backpack, but the paper, the pens?
Well, you know, please, I don't want the community to say that schools are not providing supplies for our students, because schools do supply our teachers for their classrooms. But it's that ongoing. You know, school is 180 plus days. So we don't want a child to say, I got to stop working because I don't have a pen or pencil. So the schools do buy supplies, but I'll tell you, Jeff, teachers spend a lot of their money to be able to make those classrooms, those 21st century learning environments, an environment that's safe, that's a place where the kids love to come and they love to learn. So simple supplies can help our kids do that.
For this effort, how much of what you do is donation of physical items versus people who are sending you some money and you go buy it?
Well, we have three ways to be able to support Baltimore County Public Schools. One, host a drive, and there's still time. Two, provide a monetary donation, and 100% of those donations go straight to our purchasing supplies for our classrooms, or to volunteer the day that we're going to be distributing them at Boscov's on August 24th. So we have a big distribution center there at White Marsh Mall. But any way you want to help, you can help do that. And we want to make sure that we're giving people the options to be able to do any of those three things.
And at the White Marsh Mall event, it's actually teachers who are going to come pick up the supplies and take them the last mile to the classroom.
Absolutely. So our teachers are like our bridge between the business community and the schoolhouse classroom. So we will be distributing to 1,000 plus teachers on that day. We're planning with Baltimore County Public School teachers, showing their ID and registering. But also we have a fest outside where we will have vendors and exhibitors, and just to be able to be a way to embrace our community and say, you know what? Our businesses are behind our kids. Our businesses are there to support our kids and to rally and saying, let's get off to school on a positive note and a fresh start.
A lot of people recognize Debbie Phelps. Of course, you were in the classroom. You were a school principal before you had this job. Put your educator hat back on, not that you're not at the moment, but what do you want parents to be doing with the last 4 weeks of summer?
Well, first of all, having fun. because I think it's very important. Family and fun go hand in hand, but also to mentally prepare our kids to go back into the classrooms, to be able to tie up the summer vacations and the experiences that they had, to be able to say, you know what, now we're going to go back and we're going to go into the classroom for reading and for the math and for the social studies and the science. But just, there has to be a collaborative effort between the student that walks in our doors, the teachers who stand in front of our classrooms, the principals who lead, but the parents who parent our kids all the time. So that collaboration is very important. Never give up on your child, always be there to support them.
What's the thing that the foundation does that you're most proud of?
That's a loaded question.
And I'm not sure every county has a foundation. Is that somewhat unique?
Well, believe it or not, every LEA in the state of Maryland has some type of foundation that they do to impact their schools. But you know, when I look at our work as a foundation, we award grants to our schools to enhance and enrich the school environment. We award post-secondary scholarships to our kids to go on to higher education, whether it be a 2-year or 4-year school. But we also support our teachers and celebrate our teachers for what they do. They work very hard every day. And you know what? They've impacted you and me and so many other thousands and thousands of people. So it's our responsibility as a community to impact the next generation. They will be our leaders someday, Jeff.
No question about it. Debbie Phelps, Executive Director of the Education Foundation of the Baltimore County Public Schools. Thank you for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up Thursday on Your Money and Business, we will look into why a new study says that female doctors are often paid less than male doctors. Join us for that Thursday at 7. Thanks for watching Direct Connection, and have a good night.
Your health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.